Hello and welcome to Channel 3 Halifax. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dario Del Deegan and this is episode 2 of our pilot series in the summer. Our topic for today is, can an artist make a living in Halifax? And we already know the answer to that, so let's just have the brownies at the back of the table and go home and have an early night. Now, honestly, I want to talk about art today. I've got 3 wonderful artists in front of me, and art is really something that's very, 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 very important to me, and it's sort of the impetus behind Channel 3 Halifax. I am very much about the aesthetic experience. It's about that moment when you're engaging with a piece of art, and you've got the tingles going down your back and the goosebumps on your arms. That's that special moment. That's that special moment when you've engaged with a piece of art and it's taken you in your imagination to a new world. And that's really the beauty of what art has to offer for us. And I think it's an integral part of our human existence. We focus on the logical side, we focus on the endurance side, we focus on our work ethic, but we also have to nurture our spiritual side and our souls. And that's what art does for me. It is the one thing that I go after time and time again. I'm sort of addicted to that aesthetic emotion. I just want to feel it time and time again, because when you feel that moment, it is like no other experience that I can relate to. And as a result, I think artists make life richer. And I use that term specifically because we'll see about coming back to it a little later in our conversation. Tonight, I have 3 amazing artists. I have April Eileen, who loves to tickle the ivories. I have Curtis Botham, who likes to, who likes to tickle the charcoal on pieces of paper. And we have Colin McGuire, who likes to tickle people.
Sure.
I don't know if that's appropriate, if that's the right way of phrasing it, but basically you want to get people to have a good laugh.
Sure.
Yeah. So we have 3 amazing artists, and we'll hear their stories tonight. And let's move forward. Let's start with you, April. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into becoming a musician and really what inspired you. But the first thing I want to ask you is, what is the first recording that you purchased when you were little?
Oh, Jagged Little Pill.
Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah, like it was my first CD. Like I was so excited, compact disc.
Do you remember going to the store? Did you actually physically go in?
Yeah.
And how was the experience?
It was amazing. I mean, yeah, my parents didn't want me to listen to it at first because they were a little, nervous about some of the rated R lyrics. That was definitely ahead of her time. I played that thing over and over and over again. I know every single harmony. There's even stuff in the recording. There's one part where her harmony isn't synced up perfectly, and I love it. It's actually my favorite part of the song. Mm-hmm. So it just it changed my life.
Did you know the music before you actually bought the recording? Or was it a surprise?
Well, I only knew the one song, One Hand in My Pocket, and maybe Ironic at that time. I mean, I'm trying to think if You Ought to Know came out before Ironic. I know I knew the song and I wanted to listen to it more, and my parents, were like, and of course you want to listen to the song that, that's angsty, and I love that song so much. So I only knew a couple of the songs though, and still to this day, it along with say Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, and maybe a Queen record and some Lana Del Rey. It's the albums I put on when I can listen front to back, and Alanis Morissette has that with Jagged Little Pill.
And what was it, at what point in your journey did you know that you wanted to become a musician?
So, this is a tough one. I think I always I grew up in a small town, from a small village. Mm-hmm. And when you're from the East Coast of Canada, you see these people on stages, but you're like, how do I get there? What does that journey look like? Is it possible for me? Right. And I always had this feeling I think you're meant to do this, but I wasn't really sure. And it wasn't until, so when I was young, I went to Ukraine to study to be a concert pianist. And I realized that the amount of focus it takes to do that is not something that I had.
You were studying classical repertoire at the time, yeah?
Yeah. So my teacher was famous in Europe, and she gave us this gift of taking over 5 of her students from the East Coast of Canada. And we had this amazing opportunity, and it became very, very quickly I became aware that music, I liked writing and I liked pop melodies. I was all about melodies, but I did not want to sit alone in a practice room for 6 hours a day. That doesn't, I'm, neurodivergent. So the way that your brain functions if you're alone in a practice room is kind of hard. So I knew that music had a place, and it wasn't until much later I ended up going down the film road journey. Oh. And then I was doing all this marketing and helping out with the director. And my friend looks at me and she's like, what do you actually want to do? And I was like, I want to write this song, like the soundtrack song. And she's like, then do it. And I was like, I don't know how. I'm like, I don't even know what an XLR cable is. I didn't, at that time I was like, how do you set up a mic? What is this? I'm just going to have to record it on my iPhone and like send a voice note. And she's like, well, yeah, why not? And she's like, what's she going to say? The worst is that she doesn't like the song for the movie. I'm like, all right, fine. So that's what I did. Used my family piano and just recorded a voice note. And I got the script, wrote the song in like 20 minutes. And that's what really got me. Ever since then, I haven't been able to look away from music. It's here. It's found me again.
And how long of a journey has it been for you?
I would say it's been full time since then. So that would be over 10 years now. So it's been 12. I'd say 12 years of. Yeah.
Any highlights in the journey that you want to share with us? Good, bad, or the otherwise?
I would say it's the people that I've gotten to share stages with and that I've gotten to play music with and that have sort of believed in, sometimes when you don't believe in yourself, having people at that high level of musicianship believe in you kind of gives you the belief that you are on the right path. So I made a really good friend with Toshi Inagi. He's a Japanese guitar player on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Oh, wonderful.
And so he put together a band for me, the bass player from Jimmy Kimmel Live. And I had this really great drummer. He plays with like Ben Harper and his brother Peter. And I had this band in LA. And then that experience in itself was just, that these people would come out and play music with me and be like, yeah, we're in April's band. I'm like, no, like you can't. I remember the bass player like introduced me to these film composers later on. And he's like, yeah, when April's in LA, I'm in her band. I'm like, bro, you can't say that. Like you play, like I can't even. That was cool. And then I'd say like my favorite experience of all of it was playing in Venice Beach underneath the Venice sign lighting. And they do this, they have fake snow and they make it seem, I'm from Canada. So it's like I can wear a tank top in early December on a stage and there's fake snow and it's really warm outside. So I got to play music and it was Al Jardine, who was the drummer from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So he was playing with his new band and then it was the Beach Boys and it was just like, and everybody in Venice is so inviting and it just made me feel so warm. So it's those experiences.
And how did it feel being on stage playing with these people?
Like
the actual emotions. Were you crying?
No, I think I was just like, don't mess up. Then, you're like a combination of not wanting to make a mistake, but then being present so that you're in the flow. Because those people are so present. They're very grounded at that level. And so you just kind of, I guess it's a balance of owning your space and then allowing their space when their sections and their solos and really like the communication on stage of live music is what I really fell in love with. And I think that's why, fast forward to me alone with my Ableton rig on my computer, losing my mind in my bedroom, 6 hours a day alone. I might as well be playing classical piano because I'm 6 hours alone and then like by myself, so I kind of laugh that I didn't do that because it would require that much focus. But now here I am. Mm-hmm. But I think that within all of this world of electronics, we can't lose the getting on a stage and having a conversation. And that's what music is.
Yes, so. Most definitely. How about you, Curtis? What grabbed you towards the world of art? What was the first time that you knew that visual art, that was your path?
Well, it was just kind of automatic, kids when they're young, they are naturally creative, and I was naturally creative in the same sense. I just never stopped doing it. I don't know if it's that I just followed the positive reinforcement from my parents or what it was, but it just seemed, once I started scribbling as a kid, that was it. So really it was the ability to, once those fine motor skills started to develop as a baby, that's it.
Was there ever a trip to an art gallery that kind of grabbed you as an experience?
No, I found art galleries really boring as a
Okay.
kid. What I did like though was animated movies. So that's, again, it's not that surprising or that unique. I was just really into cartoons. I still am as an adult, but as a kid, I really gravitated to weird sequences in movies. Think like the pink elephants sequence in Dumbo, all of Nightmare Before Christmas. There were some Dr. Seuss shorts as well that I was really into. There was this one called Grinch Night, things like that, and I just started wanting to draw that. You know, kids draw what's around them and what they're fans of and all that stuff. But I went one further, and I would get the tapes, the VCR or VHS tapes, and pause them and then try to copy what I saw on the screen as verbatim as I could. So there's like old drawings I did when I was like 3, 4, 5 of like, you know, characters from The Simpsons or whatever, you know, as close as I could get it, because I was like trying consciously to just copy. So I think that's kind of where it went.
So you scribbled as a kid, you went through high school taking art classes, and then how did you decide to go forward and decide to do this further university study and then become a professional artist?
Well, I knew I wanted to take some kind of creative direction. I wanted to make something, tell stories, that sort of thing. And so I bounced around a lot in terms of what that meant. When I was in high school, I really, really wanted to be an author. So I wrote a manuscript for a novel. I wrote all these short stories. I was trying to get them published, and it never happened. I was, you know, interested in animation as well. So I tried to animate, but the programs that I needed to really animate were too expensive, and I didn't know how to pirate at the time. So that stopped there. But NASCAD University, which is where I got my arts degree, was there. It was local. I was going to an art university with a fantastic art teacher named Anna Whalen, and she kind of did a crash course of what NASCAD was like. There were classes at my high school called Advanced Art 11, Advanced Art 12, and I took those with her. And so we weren't just like screwing around with like gradient exercises. We were like really getting into it. We were learning some sort of classical techniques. We were learning a lot of art history and art theory. And then I found out that basically through that process, I had made a perfect portfolio for NASCAD, and then got a scholarship off of that. Yeah, so it was just there.
Any unforgettable stories that you want to share through your journey becoming an artist?
Oh, off the top of my head. Well, I think really what kind of started me feeling like I was serious, like I could be serious after university, was when I did an independent study in Germany. It was my first time away from my parents. I backpacked around Germany for sort of 5 months, thereabouts. You know, going all in that former East Germany half and ending up in Munich. And it was really fantastic. The art I made was a lot more, you know, politically or socially conscious, connected to history, things like that. You know, using Germany's past to comment on the political present, things like that. And the artwork that I made as a result of that ended up being my first solo show. So, you know, that was a really big learning experience, because it was obviously difficult being away from my parents for the first time and everything like that in a country where I didn't speak the language. But, you know, once you realize you can do things like that independently, it kind of opens up the world for you. And that's kind of what happened for me.
You mentioned solo show. I'm sure most visual artists want to know, what does it take to put on a solo show, and how does that sort of separate from group shows and group exhibitions?
Yeah, so a solo exhibition just basically means you're the only artist there. You're filling the space with your work, however big the space may be. For NASCAD students, it's great because it's just you're given a solo show basically when you graduate. You get a show with the Anna Leonowens, or at least you get an opportunity to apply, and it's pretty easy to get that show because it's the Anna Leonowens gallery is subdivided into 3 galleries. There's Anna Leonowens 1, Anna Leonowens 2, Anna Leonowens 3. And so they're changing 3 exhibitions out every single week. So it's easy to accommodate a lot of students that way. So yeah, I got the solo show that way, and been, it was scary because basically, like I said, I'd been given that show just from being a student at NASCAD. And then I was, freaked out about the prospect of getting other shows. You just got to apply. It's just it. You look for opportunities, you apply to opportunities, and put your work out there.
All right. And how about you, Colin? I don't know much about you. You're an improviser.
I'm an improviser. I'm a writer, a sketch writer. I've been doing improv with my group Hello City for 9 years. We just had our 9-year anniversary.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you to everybody at home. Thank you to everybody in studio. We really appreciate it. And honestly, Hello City is made up of some of my best friends in the world. And I think especially where we are improvising. We are doing improv comedy. So if you don't know what improv is we are going on stage without a script and we are creating live theater on the spot. It tends to be very comedic focused. It can be also dramatic. It can be a lot of different things. But what's the question? That's what I do.
Why did you turn to the dark side of improvisation instead of the real side of dramatic theater and expression, which is where I come from?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like Curtis walking into an art gallery when he was a kid. I'm quite bored by theater with a script a lot of the time. No, that's only partially true. I want to give a lot of props to the Canadian Improv Games, which is a national festival and competition where high school students compete in improv teams, and they go to Ottawa. They compete at the National Arts Center. So I thank my teacher, Miss Emberly, if you're watching. Hi, thank you for reeling us in and being like, this is something where you can focus your energy in a way that was previously not available to me. I think I watched Whose Line Is It Anyway when I was a kid, which is a fantastic program if you haven't seen it. And then it was kind of like 10 years of being in school and being like, okay, I don't think I like drama. I think I was a trumpet player. I really liked playing the trumpet.
Trumpet's awesome. I played the trumpet.
The trumpet is awesome.
It's totally
trumpet
cool.
players are awesome.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. But I didn't really think it was possible that you could just go on stage and have people laugh at you. So when it was unveiled that this is a potential opportunity, and never was it like, oh, you could be a professional improviser. That's never why I started this. That's never been my primary focus. Mm-hmm. I do it because I love it, right? And that comes back to Hello City. When we started this group in 2017, we started doing these shows because we loved making jokes with each other, and we found that doing it on stage elevated it in a way that when you're just in a room, it doesn't elevate. It's also one of those art forms that you can't get better at in a room by yourself. You can't practice improv 6 hours a day. You'd go crazy. Yeah. So I think just going out and doing shows and booking venues and being like, I'm going to do an improv show for 3 people in the audience. And there's 8 people in our troupe, and we're going to go do it because we love each other and we love this art form. We love, like you said, the feeling, right? That aesthetic ecstasy of, we made something out of nothing and it came full circle. It feels like magic to me, and it always has, and it always will. I hope. Yeah, I can't say always will, but for me, there's never been a moment where I've had a full show and been like, that sucks. There's always some moment of joy, some moment of surprised understanding, where it's like you were coming to it from a different way than I was, and somehow we found this understanding right in the middle. So that's why I got into it, was Miss Emberly and the improv team. Why I still do it is it's addicting. Yeah. It's so addicting to have people laugh at you on stage.
Laugh with you.
Laugh at me, with me, whatever. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Laugh however you want. So yeah, that's about where I stand. I also I love teaching improv. So I teach both adult classes, and I also coach a Canadian improv games team now, and I do some junior high workshops as well. So I see it at a ton of different levels, and I genuinely think improv can save the world in a lot of ways. I think when I teach this high school team, I have kids who are going to be lawyers and marine biologists and accountants and politicians, hopefully not, and all of those types of people are learning how to communicate with each other. They're learning how to interact. And with improv, there's this shared language, but it's beyond that, right? It's how we understand each other. So I love that aspect of my teaching jobs and teaching improv, because you see so much growth, not just in the individual, but as this team unit. The kids are like, this isn't just a team, it's a family to me. And I really genuinely feel that in the room sometimes.
Yeah, and you touched upon a really important point, which is that artists do inspire other people just by having the experience of being in the audience, but that inspiration brings creativity to whatever fields these people are involved in. I ended up teaching technical communication to engineering students for many years, but I also got to teach the design process at the same time. And in that, we got to bring in elements of creativity so that they could expand their mind and thinking, which is what you really need for problem solving.
Totally.
And you mentioned teaching, which is something I'm passionate about because I used to be one myself. How do you get people in improvisation to open up? To break down that fear of embarrassing themselves in front of an audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're looking for free improv tips at home, this is my best tip for you. Take a deep breath. First things first, breathe in, breathe out. No matter what happens on stage, you're going to be fine. Everything is going to be okay, right? I've had people who are so naturally charismatic, and then as soon as they get on stage, nothing changes, but they stop breathing. Physically, they stop breathing. Their chest tightens up, and then they're no longer having fun. There's no flow state, which I think is a core part of doing art at its highest level, is getting into this. You're not thinking about it. You're just reacting. You're breathing. You're doing it. So my best advice is just breathe and know everything's okay. You're doing improv. If you're doing improv, things are pretty friggin' good for you if you're doing improv. And I know it's hard. Social anxiety is real, and being in a room and being like, I feel judged is real. And that's something that only with practice are you going to be able to overcome. Only by sitting in that really hard feeling are you going to be able to move past it. So breathe, and breathing helps.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, we've talked about art a little bit. We've introduced our lovely panelists for tonight. How about we experience a little song? April, would you mind playing a little for us? And what song do you think you'll perform for us?
Well, can they hear me through this mic right now?
Let's find out. Asking the tech.
Yes.
Tech's got a thumbs up.
Tech's got a thumbs up.
All
Okay.
right.
So
Rock and roll.
You mentioned Dark Side a minute ago as a joke about him being brought over to the dark side.
The dark side.
So I wrote this song, and it was more about social anxiety and mental health, and it's just kind of funny that you said all of that because it kind of parlays into what I'm going to say. Oh, I think it's you could read my mind. See, so
It's under the amp.
could you
It's snagged under the amp.
just that chord. Yeah, perfect. Just a tad bit more clearance. There we go. And then I can bring this in a bit. So again, I think we all get in our own head. We get social anxiety. Sometimes, one of the funniest things I find is go to a party or go to a social event and see who's going to just pick up when they're alone, if they pick up their phone. And that's how you can tell if somebody's anxious in their body. Like if they're looking and they check out and they don't want to be there, they're kind of nervous. And as I started playing live shows, I realized it's different when I'm behind a piano than when I'm standing with a guitar versus no instrument, because you have nothing to hide behind either. So there's this vulnerability as you open up in performing. And I think that the best art comes from us just being vulnerable and sharing the truth about all that, the negative, so the negativity inside. And they're just feelings, and they're not you. They're passing through, but you've I think as artists, if we can channel and create, like transmute that energy into the art, it helps us and it helps other people. So anyway, this song I wrote is called Dark Side. Okay. It's going to drop on Friday.
On Friday.
Yeah, and I've never actually played it on piano, so it's meant to be on guitar, but I was like,
we're in for a treat then. This is special.
So the cool thing about this song is my friend that lives in Dartmouth was like, you know, they call Dartmouth the dark side, right? And I was like, well, I didn't intentionally write the song about Dartmouth, but like, it would be really cool to go film a music video in Dartmouth. So the whole premise of the video is like, so the lyrics, I've been stuck on the dark side. And so it's like trying to get out of Dartmouth. So you try to, you know, there's bridge traffic. I missed the ferry. I missed the bus. The scooter's not working. And so I just, you know, there's a surprise on how I get across the harbor, but we'll let you guys watch that when it comes out.
Curtis, is Dartmouth the dark side? I'm new here.
I don't really go to Dartmouth that often.
Yeah, I find that. People in Halifax stay in Halifax and people in Dartmouth stay in Dartmouth. Is something about that bridge. I've only lived in Nova Scotia for 5 years, so I'm still getting used to the whole feel of everything. But I find it a little bizarre that people don't want to cross the bridge.
Just most things that people need on a day-to-day basis are on both sides. Yeah. Grocery stores you don't need to cross, or like schools you don't need to cross. So I only have like one thing that I go to Dartmouth for every once in a while, and then I guess I had a couple of shows there. That's it. But yeah, generally I don't know much about Dartmouth.
All right. Well, let's hear April's interpretation.
And on the Dartmouth note, I should mention I'll be playing this in Dartmouth on Sunday at Sullivan's Pond, part of their summer concert series. So from 3 to 5 p.m. on Sunday, August 9th. Come on out. It's a free show, all ages. But we're actually doing a ticketed show the night before, Saturday, August 8th.
That's right. 888.
Yes. I love my magic numbers.
At the Seahorse.
Yep. And so I got an artist flying in from Toronto. She's incredible. She's
nice.
Brought her whole band. And then Madeline. They're both like more like rock punk. I'm the softer of the two, so I'm going to open up the night. It's going to be really cool. It's like 3 female, bands. And yeah. So.
I got my ticket. I'm excited.
Yay!
It's going to be an awesome show. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited to it.
For now, will you?
Yes. Here we go. Here's Dark Side. I'm going to turn it down just a smidgen. Does that affect the live stream if I turn it down? Okay. Sick of all these bottles, I'm a mess. Holding on to sorrows, I confess. Looking alright outside on the surface, trying inside, I'm holding on to secrets. Everybody's perfect, yeah, right. I've been stuck on the dark side. I've been stuck on the dark side for way too long, running circles in my mind, reminiscing the good days, 'cause now they're gone. Hate the way that it sounds in stereo, overthinking again, lonely road. I've been stuck on the dark side. I've been stuck for a while now, but I'm moving on. Standing in a crowd, but I feel alone. Anxious all around, I just look at my phone. Spend all my time blaming everybody else. Look in the mirror and barely even know myself. Everybody's perfect, yeah, right. And I know there's brighter days. I see the sun peek out from the dark clouds in my way. And I've been stuck on the dark side. And I've been stuck on the dark side for way too long, running circles in my mind,
reminiscing the good days, 'cause now they're gone. Hate the way that it sounds in stereo. Overthinking again, lonely road. I've been stuck on the dark side. I've been stuck for a while now, but I'm moving on. I've been stuck on the dark side. I've been stuck for a while now, but I'm moving on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, April. That was beautiful.
Thank you, guys.
That was beautiful.
Thank you
That
so
was
much.
wonderful. And you know what? While I was sitting there enjoying that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I wasn't thinking about the rent. I wasn't thinking about the bills.
No.
I wasn't thinking about the responsibilities. You took me away for a few minutes,
That's my job.
and that was beautiful.
Yeah.
But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? The thing is, after the show's over and everyone packs up and goes home, we do go home. And we do go home to the bills. And we
Yeah.
do go home to the
If
responsibilities.
we have a home.
Yeah, if we have a home. So let's turn to the realities of being an artist. And we can talk back and forth if each of you would like to respond to each question. Basically, what does a typical week look like for each of you? Anyone, it doesn't matter, free for all.
You guys go.
What does a typical week look like for you?
So for me, my schedule's a little bit all over the place week
Okay.
to week, but depending on if I have classes up and running, I'll be teaching multiple classes throughout the week. Most of the time I spend in the mornings, I'll write and I'll do organizational tasks. So emailing people, starting to write grants, stuff like that. Anything that like will sustain another show, right?
Yeah.
Or sustain another class. I work for the Halifax Regional Arts, so that's where I work in public schools. So I'll do a couple workshops per week in public schools. And then normally Hello City, we've been doing a monthly show. So it's not a ton of time for us, but then we'll try and get together at least bi-weekly to jam or hang out, throw sketch ideas around. So yeah, that's and then obviously that the one night a month that we have a show, that's normally a pretty big day for us. But yeah, I would say there's definitely not enough improv work to go around. You definitely have to be grinding if you want to like make a living off of this. So yeah.
How about you, Curtis? What does a typical week look like for you?
I don't usually schedule myself that, rigidly. But generally speaking, I tend to work on the things that make money kind of around the weekend, kind of on the evenings, but spend most of my days just messing around with my own art, drawing. Basically, I'm drawing all the time. It's just different kinds of drawing. There's my fine art drawing, which is long-term gains, but short-term doesn't generate that much revenue. And then there's the commissions and the other things, which generates like the lion's share of my revenue most of the time. And then every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, it's been a while since I've applied for something. Let me spend today or the next day or whatever applying for random things or whatever, and then leaving myself open for time to just have days where I do whatever I want. So I really don't have much of a schedule. Yeah.
What about you, April? What does a week look like for you?
So it's a lot of computers.
6 hours with Ableton.
Yeah, well, not so much Ableton these days. God, I'm in Adobe Premiere right now,
Oh.
editing that music video. And spreadsheets. I've realized I had to make spreadsheets or else I will forget all the tasks that I have to do. So it's like, I don't spend as much time playing music as I'd like or writing right now, because there's so much of the business stuff that pops up. So the grants, the marketing, organizing shows, promoting them, selling the tickets.
So the business side of it.
Yeah, a lot of the business side. And then, just all of it. Like there's accounting, a lot of the business.
We need to get you an agent.
Yes.
To take
yes.
care
I
of
don't
all
have a
of that.
manager and I don't have an agent.
Yeah.
And I own all my own publishing and I'm looking for a publishing deal. So
That's what they do, and
but
that's
we'll
what they're
say
good
that.
for.
Yeah. But and I'd say one of the focuses right now for me is music and TV and film. So I spend a lot of time going through meta tags, getting my metadata, tagging my music properly, getting it all into a system so I can send it off and make sure. Right now I'm doing all the fun, like finding contracts with the producers and the songwriters and seeing what I legally own and what I can represent. And if I don't, then I need to get the paperwork, create my contracts, get them to sign it, bug them, because musicians we're kind of flaky at times. So it's like, you want me to sign that? Oh, well, let me read it first. So then, okay, maybe tomorrow. Anyway, but it's good.
Could you weigh the percentages, creative versus business?
70-30. And it
70
should
business,
be
30 creative?
Yeah, it should be like opposite, it's tough. So I'm hoping that it's at least 50-50 moving forward. I try to get in the mornings. I think that if I can get to the piano and just work on some of my vocal warm-ups and whatnot and allow that morning space, I think is the best time to channel for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it used to be at night, but I'm shifting myself out of being a night owl. So,
Colin, what about you, percentage-wise? How much creative versus the business organizational side?
I think right now I'm probably at a 50-50 if I would include teaching time in classroom as artistically fulfilling, which half the time it's not. Half the time it's more work and it's logistics and it's feelings and it's human interaction. But I am still working on improv skills when I'm leading an improv workshop. So I think I still count that to the artistic side just to make it so that it's 50-50, I think. Yeah.
Curtis, how about you? Can you give us a percentage maybe?
Well, it's probably mostly all creative. I don't know, like 80-20, because like most of the income I generate, like I said, is commission work, like just drawing art, making art for hire or whatever, and that is creative. And usually the customers are coming to me for that. So yeah, and then every once in a while I remind myself that there should be a business component because other artists that I know end up getting all these opportunities, and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't applied for anything for a while. So I kind of have to consciously remind myself to remember that there's just like a paperwork element to this. Spreadsheets. Yeah, exactly.
So what's the biggest challenge to making it work for you?
I guess making a living every month, that's probably the most nerve-wracking anyway. For me, there's a lot of times where I'll make just as much as my expenses that month. There have even been a few months where I hardly make anything at all, and then the next month everything starts to fall into place and I can be chill for a month or two, and then I have to do it all over again. But then part of it too is that in the back of my mind, I just remember, like, I've gotten grants in the past, and then I, hold, or things in the past that I have allow me to go forward with, a savings and not have to worry so much about where that next buck is going to come from.
So none of you came in with the Porsche, the Mercedes, or the BMW that's in the parking lot out there?
Not me.
Oh, I thought those were your wheels.
They take 70%.
Colin, what's the challenging part of making it work?
Financials.
Financials,
I think when we started doing Hello City, the venue that we normally rent, I think was probably half the price it is now. So our main focus, and I'll talk about Hello City right now specifically, as an organization, what we wanted to do was build an improv community in Halifax that prior to that moment didn't quite exist. And we found it a lot easier in the first couple of years because we were able to charge $10 at the door, and we'd fill half the venue, and we'd be able to make a couple bucks off of that. Now, like we really need to, every time we have a show at that venue, we have to sell out, or we have to do well. So it's a little bit of extra pressure. It's more of a challenge for us to we have to put more money now towards marketing because none of us are as talented as Curtis is, let's say, at drawing. So our Canva posters, like you can see the attendance by how good our posters are. So we've commissioned artists in the past to do posters, and that's just another added cost that makes it a little bit trickier for us to be able to provide not only an accessible improv show, but one that doesn't leave us going, well, we didn't make any money and we probably can't spend another $400 next month. So that's where we're kind of threading the needle a little bit in terms of organization. And that's how I think the current economic climate and probably the cuts to the arts that have happened over the past few months. I mean, we're an improv troupe, and we're looking around at the other theater groups that we work with and saying like you guys are also in trouble. Like we're all in trouble.
Yeah,
here.
I'm hearing that across the board, and I'm hearing that even all these other theater companies are having to put the sponsorship right into the work so that they can get the support in order to keep going.
Totally. Or they need angel investors, people who are coming in and spending tens of thousands of dollars because they don't want this independent theater, which provides so much cultural impact to that area. They don't want it to close down. They can't afford it to close down, right?
Right.
So to them, that money, who cares if it's $10,000, $20,000 to these people who then wouldn't have a theater company producing world-class theater in their community anymore? And it's a form of institutional violence. I'm done.
I have some stuff to say about that.
Well, do you want to go?
No, you can go first.
Well, it's just like once it dies, it's so much harder to have it give birth again and build momentum. So once your community loses art and loses people that can make a living off of it, you see it happening, gentrification in major cities. Artists make the space cool. We play the music, you paint the walls, you make it a great spot to be. And then people come in and they all want to live there, and developers, put a lot of money into these buildings and make them the hot place to be. And then, the next thing you know, it's like, we don't like you playing music past this time of night, and what's going on up this street. And so it's so hard to figure out a way that makes it work. But I know that society is so much richer with music and arts. And I think with music, the hardest part is the ROI in this business. Because you can, think about this, for example, look at all the major artists, Lady Gaga, all of them, they have perfumes, fragrances, makeup, there's some kind of, they've built a brand. Because the music itself, you used to be able to buy a compact disc and make, $20, and whatever percentage would go to the label. It was harder to get the music made and more expensive, and the gatekeeping was excessive, but you could make more money. And now it's, streaming. So the money's gone so far down. Apple Music pays better than some of the other ones out there, and they're very supportive of independent artists, which I love. But still, at the end of the day, the streaming, I think if you get 1 million streams, it's $5,000 US. And I remember this company reaching out to me years ago, and they're like, we'll get you 1 million streams and you just got to spend 10,000 US. I'm like, you want me to spend 10,000 to make 5,000? That's what this business feels like. And then the music itself, it's to pay a producer that is worthy of that fee because they are bringing talent to the piece. But without grants, I did the rough math, and you think, okay, the lowest price of a really good producer, and they're probably going to do it as a friend rate, would be $2,000. Then you got to do a video. So then you probably need $2,000 for that. Unless you film it on an iPhone, and it depends what level you're doing it. But then to market, you need at least $2,000. So for every song, so I'm looking at this 10-song album, it's $6,000 per song to make sure it gets off the ground. That's $60,000. How do you make it? And that's just really basic stuff. And then it's wild. So then you go, okay, well, we can make money off touring. We can make money off merch. But, don't know about other musicians, but like, I don't want to be a glorified t-shirt manufacturer. But the cool part about it is if I, you know, could co-create some kind of cool design with somebody like Curtis and have that live on it, you know, that I think is where I'm heading, to try to figure out a way to make that happen.
Collaborations.
Yeah. And so sometimes I don't really know. The other way is if you're going to play covers and you're going to go out to the gig and you're going to get the guarantee bar fee. But if you're doing your own shows, like, you're responsible for the marketing and the tickets, and you've got to create some kind of buzz to get people out there and create value. And there's so much pulling people's attention away. But I do think people want to come back and support local and see live music and see live shows. I think that's hopefully where we're heading when they have had enough of the AI voices that we all know. I can hear it right away. I go to put a song, like one of the trending songs in my stories. I'm like, I think that vocal's AI. And I'm like, I'm going to switch to a different one. So, you know, I'm not totally against it, but.
And apparently there's a public backlash to it, which is part of what Channel 3 Halifax is all about.
Yeah.
People are going back to analog. They're going back to the real because it's the human experience.
Yeah.
But we seem to see there's this big divide in the industry itself as to where the money's going. On that note, why don't we let Curtis have a comment on this and then take us into some of your artwork. Why don't you use that as a segue to bring us into talking about your own expression?
A comment on what, sorry? The AI?
Well, just the comment on the changing climate that we're experiencing here in the art world.
Yeah, I mean, the question of the day is, can an artist make a living in Halifax?
Yeah.
And on one hand, well, the short answer is yes, there's a lot of artists that make a living in Halifax and Nova Scotia. There's an incredible arts community here. Even a lot of the small towns across Nova Scotia have these beautiful, flowering artistic communities. But on the other hand, there's a lot of unique challenges of being an artist in Nova Scotia. Number one being that you will be living and practicing in one of the only provinces where the government has an open contempt for arts and culture. The Premier Tim Houston and his cronies, you know, use their supermajority to blow a multi-$100 million hole in the Nova Scotian budget, and proceeded to then use that as justification to claw and gut budgets going to arts and culture and education and people living with disabilities and all these other things.
Libraries.
Yeah, libraries. And every day I'm discovering one new way that Tim Houston is screwing average Nova Scotians over. And so there's not a single working artist in Nova Scotia that doesn't feel that isn't conscious of that open contempt from the government. So I understand it can feel discouraging, freak a lot of artists out, especially if you're just getting into things. But I think it's important to also remember that even though a lot of programs are just gone, like the paint programs and arts in schools, writers, stuff like that, there are still programs and grants existing that are somewhat provincially funded. For example, the Nova Scotia Talent Trust, Arts Nova Scotia, and Visual Arts Nova Scotia. And then there's private grants as well, for example, the Doug Pope Foundation, things like that. But yeah, so right now arts is at a very fragile place in Nova Scotia, where it's clear that that Tim Houston, the provincial government, whatever, doesn't want us around. So it's kind of one of those things where the arts community needs to sort of tie together and find ways of achieving some solidarity, hopefully long enough to weather the storm of the current government, whatever that happens to look like. But, you know, artists are creative, so hopefully we can find some way to do that in spite of the pain that's being inflicted on us by Tim Houston.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what we hope to do here, and why we've brought you here to have this discussion, just to present it and put it on the table so that we have an open dialogue about what's going on and what's affecting all of us.
Did you see they cut Global last week?
Yes.
That was Chorus Entertainment from Ontario decided to do all the programming. I was very sad to see that. Speaking of...
And 95.7 FM as well. So we've seen a lot of cuts happening to the larger media outlets here. And that's actually part of the conversation I want to move forward with into episode 3 of this summer series. But let's get to some of your artwork.
Yeah,
you brought in this piece.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us the story behind it? We love storytelling here.
Okay. So keeping in line with the political stuff I was just mentioning, this is the Northern Pulp Mill in Abercrombie. It's no longer active. It was shut down in January 2020. I was there doing an artist residency. It was my first few months out of NASCAD University. I got an amazing residency in New Glasgow. And while I was there, I wanted to engage with the region's industrial history. One of the most controversial aspects of that was this pulp mill, which was put up in 1967. They got a really sweet deal from the Nova Scotian government where, they weren't going to be responsible for any of the environmental cleanup. The taxpayers were on the hook for that. Buying up land for cents on the dollar and lying straight to First Nations peoples about what the pollution was going to be. So this pulp mill was responsible for, I think, the most notorious case of environmental racism in the province. And then on the other hand, it was also responsible for 300 unionized jobs. So the community, I know 300 jobs doesn't sound like a lot, but in that kind of region, it is a lot. So the community was naturally extremely divided over it. The pulp mill was super divisive. So I thought the first thing I should do when I was in this residency was just draw it as I saw it. Like, no embellishments, just depict it observationally. And this is the second drawing I did. The first drawing I did, it was seeing it from across the water, a little bit scenic. The smoke was going straight up as opposed to blowing all around it. And I had it in my studio. And the artists and residents in the town of New Glasgow happened to know the guy who managed it, and he came by my studio. He saw it, and later I was told, like, oh, he really liked the drawing, but could you maybe take out some of the smoke? And so I did the second drawing, where I was offered to be given a tour of it. So I was shown around. I took photos inside and out. And I got the info I needed for this. And so, yeah, I just did it just after the residency ended and started showing it around. I showed it with some land and water protectors, which was pretty cool a few years ago. And it's just kind of been my traveling artwork. It's in charcoal. I'm a charcoal artist. The way that this was done was reductive. So charcoal erase, meaning I covered the entire thing in charcoal until it was pitch black. And then I used erasers to basically draw it in reverse, where I was erasing always in the same diagonal motion so that you can see that kind of motion all throughout. A little bit of a Vincent van Gogh thing going on. And yeah, just sometimes I would need to add more charcoal back. So you would erase a section away, like this whole section I'd erase away, and then I would go back in with a charcoal pencil to do the lines. And that kind of additive and reductive push and pull thing is basically what it means to be a charcoal artist. I mean, like, a lot of people associate charcoal with just like laying the charcoal on the paper like you would draw with pencil. But really you're putting it down and then you're lifting it back and then you're drawing again and then you're erasing it back. And a lot of time I use erasers to smudge, because when you first lay charcoal down, it looks like crayon. There's a lot of like gaps and white little spots because the charcoal doesn't adhere to the paper. So you use eraser to push it into all of those grooves and get that even layering. And yeah. And this was part of a triptych as well. So this was the middle piece. There were two that were the same dimensions but turned on their side. One showing clear-cut forests around Ashdale, and the other one showing Osseg, also known as Boat Harbor, which is the tidal estuary that got polluted on First Nations land, Pictou Landing First Nations, and so altogether it's kind of like this story of how wood and lumber gets used and the damage it can do to the environment if it's not done sustainably, things like that.
Is there an emotional resonance you want the viewer to take away after experiencing the piece? Or hoping would come out of the experience?
Well, I think...
Without being prescriptive, of course. Art's got to be open to everyone's interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, this piece is pretty didactic, I think, in the sense that most viewers who see it, they're not going to think that I'm being complimentary or flattering to this kind of industry. But again, it's just observational. It's what I happen to be observing. Sometimes, though, people take different things away from it. Like I said, it's not like this industry is completely superfluous. Wood pulp is used in so many of our products. I mean, the coronavirus, like a lot of N95 masks use wood pulp in their production. So yeah, it could be just thinking of like the origins of our products that we use in our lives. Is this the only way that we can get those products? Yes or no? So a lot of people are going to see this and they're just going to be like, oh yeah, screw these industries polluting our air and all this stuff. But some might come with a little bit more of a complex or nuanced thing where it's like, is this a necessary evil, or those sorts of things? And really, I'm kind of happy for people to have that dialogue amongst themselves or amongst other viewers, things like that. So, I mean, it's something that I had to confront too, because I can't just pretend like we don't need some of the products that are made out of this, but I learned a lot about the pulp mill. There was a book that came out called The Mill, 50 Years of Pulp and Protest. I mean, it talks about this pulp mill in like excruciating detail, and that really painted a picture for me and showing me that there are ways that wood pulp can be produced that aren't quite as damaging. For example, clear cutting forests is not necessary. Small woodlot owners are a much more sustainable source of lumber, things like that. So yeah, I don't really want my work to always be bashing people over the head with its message, but I realize it might come across that way sometimes just from observing what's in front of me.
Well, you're responding to your environment, right? And that's what creative people do. You're just responding to what you feel, and what you see, and what you experience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I used to be a little bit more into the surrealism and expressionism and coming up with like crazy fantasy type artworks, but I don't know, something in my last couple of years of university, I just became interested in things in the real world and ways that you can message your work.
All right, and Colin. So we didn't really get a chance to discuss much before coming to tonight's discussion.
No, brief.
And I was kind of hoping you'd do a little improv for us. I don't know. Can you make something up?
Right now? Yeah, I could probably improvise a story.
A story?
I think, yeah.
Hey, that goes along with our theme of storytelling here on Channel 3 Halifax.
Hey, I love that.
Works out perfectly. Could you tell us a story?
I can try, yeah. Okay, in order to prove it's improvised, could I just get any word? Any, like, exciting word, not like or the?
Watermelon.
Farm. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful farm. It was run by an old man named Old MacDonald. And he was an odd fellow. He kept away from the rest of the community, and he spent all the time with the animals on his farm. He had a pig he named Cupie. He had a cow he named Bobo. But most importantly, he had a horse, and his horse's name was Frank. Now, Frank and Old MacDonald were pretty much inseparable. Frank was never married, as a horse is not one to be married, and Old MacDonald never married either, until one day a storm set in. A giant, a multi-purpose storm. There was lightning, there was cement falling from the sky, there were, little fairies of rain that were just drenching the county in water and ice and sleet. And Cupie, the pig, was lost. Not let out. She was frozen to death by this storm. Frank was the first to know, and he ran over to Mr. MacDonald, and he brayed, and he neighed. But Old MacDonald couldn't do anything. He saw Cupie the pig, and he said, "Well, Frank, that's life. Sometimes one of your friends gets frozen to death in an ice storm. And you just gotta make the best out of it. So he dragged Cupid all the way over to the slaughterhouse and made bacon for his family of 2. Later that evening, an asteroid belt started falling from the sky. Millions upon trillions of particles of rock and stone and ice drifted into our atmosphere, right at Old MacDonald's farm. Bobo the cow wasn't cut out for it. Bam! Bobo was done. And again, Frank ran all the way to Old Man MacDonald's window and he said, "Bray and Bray." But Old MacDonald just shook his head and he said, "Frank, that's life, kid. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you just gotta drag your second best farm animal to the slaughterhouse and make burgers for yourself." So that's exactly what he did. Frank, however, was a smarter horse than you might imagine.
Oh.
And there was another type of storm forecast. This one was a digital storm. It was Y2K, baby.
Y2K.
Y2K was coming. And Old Man MacDonald, he didn't make any precautions, okay? He wasn't being a very good friend to Frank, was he? Was he? No. So what Frank did was he logged on to AOL with his horse hooves clipping and clopping each keystroke. And he made an email. And he emailed 2 places. He emailed News 95.7 and he emailed Global Atlantic. And as soon as those puppies got a hold of the story, it took off. Media swarmed Old Man MacDonald's house, taking pictures, asking him questions. How could you let this happen? And then Y2K hit. And it wasn't like it was in real life. It was worse. There was no water. There was no power. There was no internet anymore.
No internet.
No internet. No AOL blast. So Frank, seeing Old Man MacDonald have no way to survive anymore. He had no electricity. He had no water. He had no power. He couldn't be a farmer anymore. So Frank clip-clopped over to his bedroom and he knocked on the door and he said, "Sorry, buddy, that's just life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose." And then he dragged Old Man MacDonald all the way to the slaughterhouse. And then News 95.7 and Global Atlantic showed up. And they said, "No, stop! We have a moral authority here to make sure what goes on in our community is okay. We need to make sure that our constituents and the people who listen to us and watch us on TV are safe and sound." Old Man MacDonald, hearing this, understood something for the first time in his life. Frank wasn't just his best friend and his horse. It was actually him. We are all one. The end. You better believe that was improvised.
Awesome story. Do you think the younger generation will recognize the references to AOL and Y2K?
I hope not. Go Google it. AOL Blast. That was a cool little news blast.
How old are you?
Yeah, it's a great question. How old do you think I am?
32.
Oh, I just turned 33.
Yes.
Curtis guessed 32. I'm gonna stop pointing at the camera. I'm sorry.
I don't even know what camera's active, so I don't want to look at either.
this one.
But he can intercut anytime he wants, so
I don't know. There's no indicator for us.
We're having lots of fun up here on stage, but have any comments come through on the live stream?
All of the comments.
Anything that...
Oh,
And thank you to the viewers who are at home watching
Yeah,
this. We
actually,
really
this is-
appreciate the fact that you've tuned into this live stream. This is the point, which we want to connect with you too.
All right, the comments from Sheila Stansfield 2362. Bravo, great song to
Hey.
April. Yeah. All right,
Accolades.
great song. Beautiful song from Syndic 3D. Yeah. Sheila Stanfield 2362 also said, artists have a hard time always hustling, so different from 40 years ago. Yeah. Beautiful drawing from the same commenter too as well. Yeah. The excavator, he is really great, referring to Colin. Yeah.
The excavator?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
Great story, improvisation from the same user too as well. Yeah. And yeah, overall, nice story on the spot by Wildbrook Kennels.
Awesome.
Yeah. And those are the latest comments.
Cool.
amazing.
Hopefully, if we get a teleprompter, we'll be able to incorporate those comments a little more with a little more fluidity. To wrap up tonight's conversation, this has been totally awesome. What does Halifax do well for artists, and what's the biggest thing still missing? If you want to just close off with a comment, each of you. What does Halifax do well for artists, and what's missing?
So I think the thing that Halifax and Nova Scotia does really well is there are so many galleries. Now I'm worried about what might happen in the future with some of those galleries, but there's a lot of private galleries that are pretty much going to be fine. There's a lot of galleries that are like hole in the wall. Some of them pop up for a year, then they're gone. And all of those places are looking for artists to show their work. So if you're just starting out, you have a lot of those just starting out types of venues to get yourself out there. A lot of the libraries display public work. A lot of cafes look for artists to bring in work. There's just all of those little ways that an artist can kind of get that first foothold in Halifax, and I think that's really excellent. And the question about what can be changed or what's missing, I struggled the most with that because that's one of the questions you gave me ahead of time. And I find that I always come back to not what can be done like systemically, because we know what I'd like systemically. I'd like more funding for the arts, please. But I kind of want to see a shift in perception about art, not to take it for granted as much, but also not to see it as this cloistered ivory tower thing where only a select few chosen ones are just like blessed with talent or whatever. Art is something that anyone can do. It's just a matter of putting in the time and the dedication. I sincerely believe that everyone is an artist to an extent. They still have that kid in them that started being creative when they were little. They just have to find ways to give that, like bring that back. And it doesn't need to be visual art or representational drawing that is photorealistic or whatever, you know. It can be abstract, it can be a craft or a trade. I think like a lot of crafts like knitting, sewing, felting and stuff can be turned into fine art. A lot of trades like carpentry or whatever can also be used to make art. So, you know, if you're one of those people that says, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure or whatever, you can still do something creative. You can still create instead of just consuming, you know? So that's what I hope, is that there's a little bit of a perception sea change that welcomes more people into taking those first steps to be creative themselves.
Great insight, great insight. How about you, Colin?
Yeah, I think what Halifax does really well is I want to say, like, once you're part of a community, that community really does support you. And what I think is hard is breaking into this community. I think we're really xenophobic in Nova Scotia towards people from other provinces and other places a lot of the time. And I think, I feel very lucky and fortunate to have started Hello City back 9 years ago and kind of found an audience and found a community. But I know a lot of people that aren't quite as fortunate. So I guess what's missing would be, I guess like an attitudinal shift that, like, especially coming from comedy and improv, like the barrier to entry should be nothing. It should be literally nothing. And because I don't even need a pencil or a piece of paper or an instrument. Like I can go into a room with one other person and we can make a scene together without any props, without anything. And I think not a lot of people recognize that that's a possibility in their lives. Not everybody wants to do improv, obviously. But if a barrier to entry is just like, oh, I need a pencil and a piece of paper, that's a pretty low barrier to entry, right? Music, maybe it's a little bit more challenging, but there's lots of publicly available. That's why libraries and funding libraries is so important, because it's not just that the things are available. It's breaking down the stigma of people who are maybe don't have the resources readily accessible to them to just be like, this is for me. I am allowed to learn the French horn. That's something I'm allowed to do as a 25-year-old man, 8 years ago. I can do, and there's worth in that. There is an inherent benefit. There is a richness to your life that is added when you do these artistic things. Whether or not they're incredible, whether or not you're an amazing musician or artist, it's worth doing because it makes you a more fulfilled person.
I'm giving you some.
That was so nice.
No, this is perfect. April, now you take it away.
I was just like, I'm going to give him some background chords here. It was starting to get so inspiring.
Look, if I could snap my fingers and make one thing come true for you, what would it be?
A team. I think a lot of this I've had to do alone and I hate it. And it's so lonely and it eats away at you. Like I've lugged this keyboard to California and back multiple times, to Toronto, to everywhere. You know, I'm not originally from Nova Scotia either, so I had to, break in. And some people have been really great, but I still do find being a part of those groups that are doing all the cool things and that know about the events and, to get brought into the community is sometimes difficult to be seen. But I would say that Halifax does so many wonderful things. I love that there's venues and people seem to promote live music here. I'm originally from St. John, New Brunswick, and there's not a lot of places to play music, let alone a piano. So Halifax was great because you have places like the Barrington Steakhouse, the Press Gang, Pickford and Black, although it's, under a shuffle. But these places had a piano and you could just roll up and play, and it was incredible. So those things I think this city does amazingly well. But I would say a team, and it doesn't matter necessarily the experience that they have, it's just do they believe in you and can you trust them to kind of get to that next level? So I'd say time and money. And moving forward, I think one of the things with Nova Scotia, I think the initiatives to double the provincial population in the next 10 years. So if that happens, I think housing is going to be a huge issue, especially for artists in the city.
Going to be.
Yeah, it already is, right? So I think we face a lot of, now I need, part-time job, a full-time job to balance the, the art career. I was teaching for a little bit too, and that was really fun. I was teaching out in Bedford to some really lovely students, and yeah, it teaches you a lot about writing, because you see these young girls that want to play Taylor Swift, and so you can kind of, see what kind of songs they want to play and what's easy for them on the guitar, So I think about, a G and an A chord. Actually, that's what I'm playing now, but I didn't mean it. But on the guitar, it's the easiest chord, right? So yeah, speaking of, anyway. I would just say that to have more community so it doesn't feel like you have to do it all alone. And if anybody out there is feeling all alone, drop us a message on Instagram or, because the community is really important. So, but that's all.
We could go on and on talking about this for hours, but I want to just put the question out there to everyone. Did tonight change the way you think about artists? Well, it did for me. I got to meet April, Colin, and Curtis. I got to be enriched by April's music, Curtis's drawing, and Colin's improv. We had those special moments tonight, and for that, I feel enriched, and I feel like I've taken something away from today. And actually, you guys made my day. You made my week. But I hope that meeting these lovely artists on tonight's panel also inspired some of you out there to embrace the arts and appreciate the arts for what they are and what they do, and that they're an integral part of our life. And with that, we're going to close today's show. We'd like to thank April, Colin, Curtis. I'd like to thank Matt and Michael for helping me produce and create the show. I'd like to thank Jeff for coming out and being in the audience, enjoying the brownies. Brownies by Dario, flowers by Irene. Yeah, it's flowers by Irene. Flowers by Irene. For those who catch the reference. Coffee by Channel 3 Halifax. Brownies by Dario. This is episode 2. Can an artist make a living in Halifax? Well, somehow they can. At least possibly. Let's keep holding on to that possibility as we move into the future. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a great evening, and we'll see you next week with episode 3.
Thank you, guys.